the worst possible way, you just don't think things could get any worse. You just don't. You don't want to think that the realization of this could actually still be exists, but it does. Man, chapter 149 is crazy.
Anyway.
Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Taz coming at you with a breakdown discussion review for this cuckoo crazy chapter of 149 in EdensZero entitled Power Lost. Usually, Jesus, I got tongue tied. So, man, getting right back into it, you see Nasei walking right over to Wise and Rebecca, and then Pino, Happy, Mosquea all still basically under his suggestion and control, and Wise was basically trying to figure out exactly how his ether gear worked, but you know, there has to be some type of rule to his hypnosis, which I kind of actually called in my last video as to why it worked or how it works. And then he, like he said, he's giving the last hypnotic suggestion, which is for them to pretty much die. Now they begin to start choking themselves, and they're like, I can't stop, but they're like, I like it, you know, like I don't want to die, but they're enjoying it. And I say it's really sick and twisted in the head. I mean, like, man's is kind of disgusting, like making them do this to themselves. And then, like, as they're getting ready to pretty much continuously choke themselves out, Wise and Rebecca, that's when Lyra walks over and she's like, yo, give me that girl. And he's just like, why? You know, she's like, the show's about to begin and I don't know what show this could possibly be. He's like, these are the exact times that people need to get their spirits lifted, and besides, look at her, like she'd be perfect for the show. Now I wonder what this show could actually be. And she's like, don't look at me like that, like you can do whatever you want to the rest of them. She's like, I only want her. And then he gives her the command to say, hey, you basically listen to Lyra, she's your master, go forth X, Y, and Z. So now as they walk away, she's just like, we all need to have fun. And Nasei's like, have fun, right? Now Wise is still basically just about to be done in by himself. And he's like, but it looks like my fun is almost over. And that's when his watch goes off and it activates his equipment, the Arsenal Mark II re-equip, which was kind of dope, because looking at this one compared to Arsenal Mark I, this one looks more, honestly, this one looks more like Ziggy. It looks way more like something that will belong to like the Demon King's crew, and it's really dope. And Nasei's like, yo, what did you do? He's basically asking him, how did he figure this out? Like, how did you break my hypnosis? And Wise deduced that he basically had to be giving suggestive thought through electronic signals, which in fact is what he was doing, which would tip him off to how he actually made the robots do something, because there has to be one underlining factor to make all this work. Electronic signals, frequencies, brains work in the same way that circuits in a robot or machine would work. And he was like, in other words, it's a reverse ether gear, which is the first ether gear that we actually of this type that we're hearing about. And he was like, but you were under my hypnosis the entire time, which he then again explains his watch is a timer function. He knew that once he had broken free, or when they were free, the chances of it happening again were going to be slim to none. Like, so he knew that it was going to happen. He set a timer. Now, funny enough, I wonder if he had set this timer any longer than normal, would he actually have offed himself and then it would have reactivated? But that's neither here nor there. He's like, I figured out how you hypnotized me and it won't happen again, basically. And he's gonna save the rest of his squad down there. Mosquea doesn't look like he needs to be saved. Pino and Happy, however, they actually do. And then that's when he asked, you know, what did you do with Rebecca? And she was like, oh, she's been basically taken away while you were under my hypnotic spell. And then he was like, well, since you're having fun, I need to have some fun too. And Nasei jumps inside of a giant mech suit also. I'm like, yo, there would be something. He would have to have a way to actually do battle. Like, his ether gear's only like hypnotic suggestion or signal frequency manipulation. That tongue tied. So just like, all right, cool. And now this was really dope. This kind of reminded me of some like Gurren Lagann type stuff. And I'm just like, all right, cool. So we got a mech fight. They burst out into the city, up into the skies, and he lets us know that this is the latest mechanical suit from the Empire, basically the Sea Devil. I'm like, all right, it's called a Sea Devil. Doesn't look much like a devil compared to the Arsenal Mark II. I'm kind of hyped to see if there'll ever be, and I'm pretty sure there will be, other iterations of the Arsenal armor. Like, how creative can Wise get with the manipulation of his suit or his gear? Because it all basically comes down to imagination. and that's the dopest part. Now back with Lyra in her dressing room with Rebecca, she basically asks her to take off her clothes and change. She's like, don't worry, I won't do anything weird. And then once you've changed, I'll undo your hypnosis because our brutal show is about to begin. And that's when Rebecca basically faints, and Lyra catches her, and she's like, oh, maybe the hypnosis was just a little too potent, like this probably worked a little too well. And then that's when we get this weird look on her face. She's like, what beautiful legs. And now that in itself is also very eerie, and we see Rebecca in the next panel, like it looks as if something's happened because the way the panels are rolling up, you can't really tell what just had happened. And then she wakes up and she's like, where am I? And a familiar body that we know walks up saying Rebecca, and it's like a way older Shiki. Gotta be at least 10 years, if not 8. Because I can't think of what Shiki's current age is. I know he's not like super young, but this Shiki looks like he could at least be 18, 20, maybe early 20s, late teens. And she's like, Shiki, like you're looking way older. And that's when he calls Master, saying Rebecca's awake, and we see a much longer haired, still fresh faced looking Master Noah. And he was like, I see, so you're not the Rebecca from our timeline. You have nothing to worry about. I just suspect you made an unconscious time leap. He's like, it should be momentary. You'll be returning to your own time soon. And she's like, does that mean I leapt into the future? Like how? But strictly speaking, this is one of the futures that branched out from your time, which is kind of like when we originally saw the backstory to her and Happy. Like, we don't know if that Rebecca is the same Rebecca who leapt into a whole nother timeline Rebecca and actually grew up kind of situation. It's like, but you did specifically come to this timeline, and there may be some significance to that. And he's like, Shiki's like, so Rebecca hasn't woken up. And he's like, our Rebecca is in a coma, and she can't use leap because her legs are basically lost to her. Like, she lost her legs, and that's the worst possible future for any Rebecca. Now, dog, this it opens up so many windows for speculation. Like, what happens now? Like we all have known from the beginning, since Xaomei told us, time is relative. Do not focus or fixate on anything because it is very speculative. It is very broad. It is ever changing. So this story has just gotten even more confusing, but in an exciting way, because you can't really tell what's happening. And this also gives note back to, if you don't recall, back in like the earlier chapters with Draken, where he was saying, the whole thing about, when he was basically doing them in, like this was world number 29, and then the end world and all that crazy jazz. That timeline actually still exists. So the original Shiki that we got accustomed to from the very start of this story, he is actually dead. Now, the Wise in that timeline lost his arm. Hamura, albeit, is doing tricks, turning tricks like her mama, probably, because that's what he was saying, like, you look way better than your mama, and you don't know how your mama paid off her debt, do you? Like, so who knows exactly what that could be, but bro, it's just really weird that Draken basically was giving us some leeway into things. This Rebecca's from World 29, so does that mean there's a World 30 Rebecca that's basically in another body? Or did those two Rebeccas swap places? Or is the consciousness that Rebecca slips in and out of in these bodies, what happens to them? Because they all exist or have their own situations. That's the thing I've been trying to figure out for the entire time since they first spoke about her abilities, or when we learned about them, or essentially how she leaps and trades places in time. I'm like, I thought it was, she just jumps in and she becomes the new person, memories and everything transport over, which was the situation. Apparently not. The consciousness is warped through time and the abilities and everything else. But the biggest issue I have is, how is it that she loses her ability to use her ether through her feet? Now, that would make, to me, it makes no sense, because robots can use ether gear and they have no actual physical limbs. I'm assuming that in this time, that Rebecca had grown so accustomed to maybe using her abilities, and the fact of thinking that she needed her legs, it was probably a mental block that caused it. Or it could actually just be the fact that if once you have a limb disemboweled that uses your gear, or is the key way in which you use your gear, you pretty much lose it. But I always thought Libra was way more than just her feet. Or that, I believe that's kind of how Xaomei spoke about it. Like it's more than just leaping through time. It's something more special than that. Even with the slight acceleration and rewind ability, it's way more to it than that. But we don't know about it yet because that hasn't even been flushed out by the mangaka yet. So guys, there's so much stuff that can be said, so much stuff that can be speculated. What's going to be happening with the Rebecca who's in the current timeline, which would be, I think, maybe timeline 30. I think, did she swap places with timeline 30 Rebecca? Like the Rebecca who lost her feet and legs, and how will she get back? And if it is momentary, what was the purpose of having her go to this timeline? What is she going to gain that may give her the edge on Nero with everyone else? We saw that when she jumped and leapt for that brief moment back from 29 into the different Draken world, you know, where Shiki had the false overdrives compared to the one where he can actually use his real overdrive now, things changed. So, like always, guys, I will catch y'all for the next one. I have seen some spoilers for chapter 150, and even these next couple of chapters apparently are going to be nutty. Shout out to the 13th Doctor always, or the 11th Doctor, my apologies, on Twitter. Man, they are doing an amazing job with just the things that they spoil and or give or provide for the community, man. Appreciate it. As always, y'all be good, be blessed. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.